Well, Baystate's chief physician executive says their health system is days away from running out of disposable medical gowns. And as with so many hospitals across the country, they continue to struggle with supplies of other protective equipment like face masks. So much so, when they got a lead on the highly sought after KN95s, the chief himself made the long drive to secure the shipment from the broker, only to be met by the FBI.
I have never experienced or had to experience anything like this.
Baystate Health's chief physician executive, Dr. Andrew Artenstein, sat down with Western Mass News over Facetime to tell the tale he wrote about in the latest New England Journal of Medicine of an unprecedented personal journey to find personal protective equipment, or PPEs, after his supply team got a lead on KN95 and other face masks.
So many of our leads had fallen apart at the last minute, and that we felt the only way to keep track of this and keep control of it was to actually be physically present.
So part of his team flew in a small plane seated rows apart to an undisclosed warehouse in the mid-Atlantic region. With no more room to be appropriately distanced, Dr. Artenstein hopped in his car and hit the road.
I'll be honest with you, at this point there was only one thing, and that was get the equipment that we agreed to, make sure it's the right high-performing equipment, and get it back home.
Once at the warehouse,
then we got word that the FBI was in the building and wanted to speak to us.
Credentials were shown to be sure the masks were headed to an appropriate location and not the black market. But still, the pallets were not being released to the waiting trucks.
It was only after a few hours went by and no trucks were being loaded that we were concerned that perhaps something had come up. And when we spoke again to the agents, we were told that they were waiting to hear back from Homeland Security, who was considering what their options might be.
Homeland Security could redirect the shipment entirely, so calls were made to Congressman Richard Neal,
who intervened on our behalf to ensure that we were able to clear any hurdles and get that equipment out.
Baystate eventually received $500,000 each of the KN95s and other face masks, a help since he says staff go through about 20,000 a day.
You can see why we could use at a facility of our size with 4 hospitals and 80 ambulatory sites, why 20,000 face masks a day is not as much as it seems on initial glance.
As his team continues to search for more masks, he said they are just days away from being out of another critical piece of equipment.
What we really need is, it's going to sound crazy, but disposable gowns. Just those blue or yellow gowns that people wear to take care of patients. Believe it or not, they are in very, very scarce supply nationally.
The supply team, he says, working 24/7 to find any lead they can. Now, in the meantime, Dr. Artenstein says Baystate's warehouse that contains all of those PPEs is now under 24/7 security.